like one, ma'am? Explains what we're doing out here.
No, I don't agree with you. I'm sorry.
What's that?
I said I don't agree with you. I'm sorry.
Well, what don't you agree with?
I just don't believe that. Okay, do you eat meat?
Do I eat meat?
Yeah.
Yeah, not all the time.
What's the difference between killing a pig and a bean inside of a human stomach?
The difference being that, according to the book of Genesis, God made man in his own image.
What if you don't believe in the Bible? What if you're not Christian?
So
we have freedom of religion in this country.
Yeah, I mean, we have freedom of beliefs. You can believe whatever you want in this country.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you kill somebody, that's murder. Intentional killing, that's murder.
What about a pig? You know a pig has the same intelligence as a 5-year-old human being?
I didn't know that, to be honest. I mean, I don't believe in killing animals. I mean, for food, I mean, God did create animals to be killed for food. It says that in the book of Acts, where he had Peter kill animals for food. But I don't agree at all with killing animals for fun. I would not do it, and I don't support that at all, because I actually love animals. I have a great love for them, always have, and but that would be the difference in that all animals, as much as I love them, they're not made in the image of God as a human being. You and myself are made in the image of God, and that. But I understand also we live in a culture where we love animals. I'd say a lot of people worship their animals. They worship animals, and we murder people in the womb. I mean, not just inside the womb. I mean, we murder people outside the womb. I mean, Terry Schiavo, she was murdered. That was evil. And little Alfie Evans, he was murdered. He was murdered recently in England. I mean, it happens all the time. But with this, thousands of children are being murdered every day. And like the reason that we're out here, because people wonder, well, why don't you go do this or this, is because this is the number one cause of death in the world, cause of death here in America, and there's something we can do about it. Because like a lot of deaths in Chicago or elsewhere, you don't know when and where that person's going to get murdered or shot.
Yeah.
Here you do, like you know when and where, and you know what's happening. I mean, I think there are some people here who don't actually know this is happening, because I used to be in that boat.
Yeah.
And so actually, even though a lot of people see it as hateful, like, we're hateful bigots, I actually tell them in all honesty, I wish a Christian, when I was growing up, would have showed this to me. Because there were no Christians in my area. I went to public high school, or I went to high school all the way.
Sure.
And I honestly wish Christians had showed this to me, because maybe I would have gotten involved. And maybe I would have become a Christian, even through that process. They would have shared the gospel with me. So we are actually out here in love. I mean, that's why we come out here in the midst of all this opposition, is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ and showing, as awful as this is to look at, and we acknowledge that this is terrible. Murder is not pleasant to look at, and there have been people who have actually risen up and taken action to love their preborn neighbors because of these signs, these images.
Yeah.
Children have been saved through these images. I mean, I've heard testimonies.
Yeah.
I held a child recently in my arms who was saved partially due to these awful images that were actually worse than this, more graphic than this. And I hope that answers any questions you had. I mean, I think you only asked me one question.
Yeah, I just ask as a non-Christian, and I appreciate what you have to say, and I appreciate you standing out here preaching your beliefs. Like, I really do. I mean, freedom of speech, I'm all for it, and I appreciate that. But
thank you. I know. So what do you believe?
I believe that all creatures are equal, and I know that that's not what it says in the Bible, and I respect any belief you may have, but this is what you believe. And in terms of what I believe, if you support companies that get their meat from factory farming and just large-scale meat industries that are torturing other creatures and all of that stuff, I mean, just supporting local.
You mean intentionally torturing them, or?
Factory farming. I mean, all I'm saying is that if you believe this, I think it would be beneficial to support companies that don't get their meat from large-scale factory farms. Local grass-fed beef. I mean, free range, everything. You know what I'm saying?
I actually support that for another reason also.
Yeah.
Because
mean, and save the bees too. Like organic farming, you're saving pollinators. Like we won't have anything without bees. Anything. Like if you eat meat, there's no food for animals. There's no food for you. If you don't eat meat, there's no food for you at all without pollinators. And large-scale organic farming that uses chemicals that kills bees, we don't have any food. And the point that I'm making in relation to this is that if you want to stop murdering children, yes, great, I'm all for it. But don't support companies that contribute to like torturing other creatures. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think so. Like, because there are companies that like in their labs will be torturing animals for experiments, and like not just for food, but they intentionally torture animals to I guess learn things for research. And I actually oppose that because I'm actually pretty sensitive. I don't know if people can tell that, but
I think it's obvious.
I'm probably more sensitive than most people in that I can't. For me, the idea of not only a person but an animal being tortured. If an animal out here was tortured, I'd be one of the first people to stop it, to interpose, because that probably comes from a love of animals, and I have a defensive nature. If I see someone being harmed, I'm gonna come to their defense, and I probably wouldn't even hesitate. And same thing for an animal. But also you're right, because we in this country we eat a lot of unhealthy food. There are people in this country dying from heart attacks, like when they're 50 because they have horrible diets.
It's meat and dairy. It's meat and dairy. Like they don't tell you, but it is, and that's
why people are dying.
I mean, like you know how on cigarette packages they warn you about this will cause cancer. You know, It's the same thing with meat because and it's not the animal. You know, it's not like an animal is going to give you cancer. It's the chemicals and the hormones that they inject into the animal that will make you sick.
And pesticides as well, like on fruit. And that's why I actually try to shop at organic markets.